All set?
Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Amanda Rivera. I'm the hearing examiner presiding over today's case. The date is May 25th, 2023, and this is case REZ2022-00026. It's a rezoning to the industrial zoning classification south of Alico Road. Because it is a quasi-judicial hearing, all evidence and testimony must be taken under oath. So if you intend to speak, if you could please raise your hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will provide is the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. I do not see any members of the public here today, so I will dispense with those instructions if you would like to begin with the applicant. I caught you just mid-sip. I apologize for that. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Hearing Examiner. My name is Fred Droblik, planner and Director of Planning of Fort Myers Office for RBI Planning and Landscape Architecture. I've been accepted as an expert witness in land use and planning here, and I'd like to be today. Thanks. I did print the PowerPoint, and I don't know why it came out in black and white, but it did. So if you have a better print, then keep that. But that would be the only exhibit I have.
Okay, that's fine. I'll accept that. If I need it in color for any of the exhibits, I can always ask for that to be submitted later. Thank you. And that will be applicant's exhibit 1. I did not have a 48-hour letter in this case. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So a question outside. Do you prefer to have 48-hour letter just to list that even our exhibits and the,
don't have to. I
the
just
applicants, I mean the people that are going to be present or anything? Is
It's
that?
completely up to the applicant
Okay.
whether they like to do that or not. We've had rare occasions where one has been sent and not received, and so I always just make sure if I don't have one that I mention that on the record to be sure we haven't missed something.
Okay, well, if you preferred that, then easily done, but if not, yeah, it was just clean because there was nothing to put on it except my signature. So, all right, so we're here today talking about the rezoning for Coastal Concrete, which is a property off Alico Road. The rezoning is, the property is approximately 6 acres. It's split zoning right now, general industrial and light industrial, and we're trying to take it all to general industrial, to the IG district. Primarily based on what you can see is the name of the rezoning and the name of the company that owns it is Coastal Concrete. So the primary need and concern is that their business is taken off. It's doing really well. They're specifically in stone, glass, clay, active ready mixed concrete building, architectural walls for development, those kind of things. And with me today is Alejandro Navarro, who is represented from Coastal Concrete in case we have operational questions about that. But that was the main reason for this. They want to expand the back operations, and that line just cuts it right down the middle of trying to do anything well back there. So we'll look at that real quick. The property now is about 2 miles west of I-75, 1 mile west of US 41. You can see the new Metro Parkway interchange, or the RIP highway there to the west as well. It is access off of Alico Road, also access off of Jean Boulevard to the south. So it's right in the middle, front and back. It's great circulation. It's concrete product manufacturing. Like I said, it's been in operation and active since the late 80s and is now, doing very well and looking for expansion in its operations. Most development on subject property predates local development orders. So if you've done a site visit or look at that, I mean, it's what you might expect from late 80s heavier development operations, and that will be greatly improved based on this rezoning and allowing them to restructure. It will be done to current code, which should improve the property significantly, even though we're expanding some of the heavier uses. The current development is, well, so the zoning was actually established in 1985 zoning. I said that back here on this one. I actually moved that and I changed that later, but it didn't happen. So the rezoning was actually split then. Here's the show of the zoning split. I would say it's 60-40 or so, 65-35 for the zoning split. The IG to the south, the IL to the north. Currently, 2022, there's work completed on a new parking area, replacement of the fence, 8-foot masonry wall, nice landscaping up front, and I have some pictures to show. Removal of some concrete pads and really cleaning up that front part of it. Use the existing office, but everything else is around there is nicely redone, establishing proper dry detention and some other features. 2013 LDO approved the addition of 3 other covered story area that are on existing pads, so those existing buildings are here in the back. And like we said, the majority of the remaining site was developed 40 to 50 years ago, prior to the code. So the development order that's been approved, and that's what you'll see live and in person during a site visit, is this DO 2018-10093. And you can see the different features, parking area. There's a proposed second building here, but parking's all up to standards with the office location here, and proposed storage building, really to kind of take down the old and put in a new, better, modern storage building in the back. The detention area features here, and the wall that runs along here and on the sides, I'll have pictures of it, but really separates this and makes this nice and really hides the development from Alico Road. And I understand that isn't part of what we can condition. This is a conventional zoning, but it does show some real intention of what the operation is and what it's going to operate and look like. I think for an industrial piece of property, this looks great. So let's look at that. So this is me out on Alico Road, looking up and down Alico Road and taking pictures. There's coastal site development and there's coastal concrete products. It's the same business, but 2 different signs that they operate under. And you can see the new landscape and everything that was just really approved or finished in the last couple months. This is the same pictures of the entrance off Alico, but then the other one is in the upper left is off Jean Boulevard. So that's what it looks like now. And you can see the ramps and the different things there that they would love to expand, knock down, and make new based on the way that thing looks now. But heavy industrial use back here, truck traffic, and everything, east and west of here. IG properties all around the area, especially in the back at Jean Boulevard. So now let's take a look at that. Of course, this is in the middle, and the staff report, again, outlines this very well. So I'm going to let them really speak to some of the technical aspects of it, because I stole a lot of this language from them anyway. So. But it's in the middle of the industrial future land use category. As the staff report said, within 1,000 feet, it's surrounded other than the public facilities that are across the street, which is a very intense use. Zoning's on top of this, but I'll look at zoning separately after this. So for the most part, then, this is in the proper place in what is designated to be this type of use in Lee County, and has been for a very long time. Zoning-wise, and I think this is important. So this is, you can see the IG, and I don't know if there's a higher concentration of IG in conventional zoning anywhere else in the county that I can recall. Some of it right on Alico like this, a lot of it developed much older than this and not looking nearly as nice as the well-done architectural wall and landscaping of this development, the way it's developing today. So I think in that way, in the large area, very compatible. Other areas that are the areas next door are intense uses, and with IDP now, with IDPs, industrial plan developments next to it. Now some of these had CPD on the front because it's road frontage, and probably most of that was probably applicant preference at that point to put some commercial on Alico Road and use that frontage. I could get on a soapbox and argue that is that the best and highest use of industrial future land use category in Lee County, just because it's valuable arterial roadways with a lot of trips. Should you put lesser intense commercial up there when these types of uses, like the 2 men, the moving 2 trucks and a guy, I forget.
2 men in a truck?
2 men in a truck. So those kind of uses, to me, we could put those in a lot of places versus ready-mix concrete and these kind of things that are needed for local development. In fact, the owner of this property, David Torres, that's what he does. I mean, he's a developer and he's building walls for his development to use as buffer walls. Is that a better use than putting something that could go anywhere? So, and these are storage ones, which really no impact, to those types of uses. But I would argue that An IG use done under modern code is probably the best and highest use of this future land use category, and particularly this location along Alico that's removed enough from the houses in San Carlos. The other more commercial and uses that are representative of that, the other kind of commercial uses and those things more towards I-75, I think this fits right exactly where it should be. Staff finds the request compliant with the Lee County Land Development Code. The next slide just outlines the comp plan and Lee plan compatibility and consistency. So one of the other requirements for decision making is does it meet the Land Development Code and other applicable county regulations. We believe it does. Like I said, it's in the appropriate location. It's in the appropriate future land use category. It's compatible with other uses. It's the highest and best use of what this type of area was really meant to be. Based on them redeveloping this, it'll have to come up to current code, so it'll probably be more. This will allow it to become more into consistency than it was prior. It's compatible with existing and planned use in the surround area. I believe it is based on the current code and how it has to separate uses. Will provide access sufficient support to provide access sufficient to support the proposed development intensity. So has two great access points, one off of a highly industrial road to the south. So heavy truck traffic and everything that really needs that kind of turning radius, and dust and everything can be directed there. Whereas then the other employee parking lot and other things that, as you can see on that site plan, is what is up front, which are, people coming in, going to the office, going to work, park their cars and trucks there, and then they can go through the gate, and get to work on the heavy stuff. Impact on transportation facilities, obviously conventional zoning, that's addressed at the time of DO. It was addressed at the time of DO in the current development order, and found to be consistent and compatible with the current uses, many of which, as we know, the separation between IL and IG uses are really a handful at best. So the large majority uses have already been thought through and calculated, as particularly in the current development order. If there was a redevelopment to occur in the back, then that process would happen again. This area doesn't contain a lot of environmentally critical or sensitive areas, but again, you see in the current development order, they did have to bring some things back up to code, establish some detention areas, establish some greenery, some trees, some things that meet current code. So actually probably improve the natural environmental area a little bit on this, as much as can be for an industrial property. And it is served by current urban services, sewer, water, fire, police, emergency services. Everything is available there, has been, to allow the current operation. And we have letters of availability and that they can service the expansion as well. Here's the policies, the comprehensive plan consistency. Obviously, policy 1.1.7 is the industrial future land use category. And as I just opined a little bit earlier, this is the proper use in the proper place in the proper location in Lee County. I believe it's highly consistent with this use. In fact, the IG conventional zoning district was made exactly for this particular place, in our opinion. The objectives with 2.1, 2.2 and those policies are sewer and water connections. They're currently servicing the property and will continue and have capacity for expansion. The standards 4.1 and 4.2 as well. And then the individual industrial land use categories. I'm sure staff's probably going to hit on those a little, so I won't go on those, but rely on the staff report that outlined those very well, and we agree with their points made. And so staff recommends approval. We're also seeking approval. We believe it's consistent with the Lee plan. We believe it's consistent with the Land Development Code. It's compatible with surrounding development, served with urban services to support development. And we believe that this is the right development and the right expansion of an intense use that's in the right place. That's all I have. Do you have any questions?
do not have any questions. Does staff have any questions?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Hearing Examiner. I do have copies of staff's PowerPoint presentation. I have provided the applicant with a copy.
Thank you. That will be Staff Exhibit 2. Thank you, because Exhibit 1 is the staff report.
I think Fred did a great job introing this, so I don't want to harp on this too much. We'll go through kind of what I've prepared here to share and just start in context with the surrounding area. In the staff report, we went into a little detail as to what was northeast south as per usual, and really wanted to hit on what the CPD permitted uses were to ensure that this expansion of this general industrial zoning district, which is certainly more intensive, only for, like Fred said, a handful of uses, such as the concrete manufacturing, whether that being extended to the road front might pose some sort of compatibility issue. We do, however, acknowledge and agree that those CPD uses chose to be co-located in an industrial area. So it's almost like the nature of the area is what it is. So we do recognize that there is some remnant AG2 in the back across Jean Boulevard that is used as open storage. You'll see in the next slide, it's been used for open storage for a long time, probably as long as this property has been developed. It's in the industrial future land use as we went over, and Fred did note there is quite a accumulation of IG in this area, and I'd agree that it's probably the highest concentration, considering that this is the largest industrial future land use polygon on the future land use map, if you look at that and you compare. So moving on, it's in the San Carlos community. You can see the property is just right on the cusp here across the line there. We've got the airport district, the Gateway Airport, I believe, district. And so we're in the San Carlos community in context of what the LEED plan defines this as a planning community. The aerial here, you'll see 2023. You see the layout, the open storage in the back, and the pavilion right here. And then you'll start to see some of the development order, the new development order construction. So here's a couple aerials, blast from the past. We've got a 1986 aerial showing the site adjacent to almost nothing besides what looks like a resident accessed off Jean Street. There wasn't an interconnect yet going up to Alico in this photo. And you can also see some concrete products being actually stored upside here. You see that those proliferate, a lot of culvert piping here, all the way to Alico, really busy in 1993. And that just is consistent from 93 to present. There's always a lot of inventory of concrete products there. And though the use of actually creating it's restricted to the, let's call it southern 1/3, 35%, the open storage is certainly permitted throughout the entire property. The applicant had this development order. I attached it to the zoning action. It's nice for context to have that in the staff report to kind of demonstrate here's a plausible development scheme. As we know, the conventional district doesn't include any special conditions above and beyond what the code allows. So when thinking about that type of, we'll call it flexibility, the surrounding area is certainly one of the most widely accepted areas for a conventional heavy industrial district like IG because of the co-location of other industrial uses and the intended future land use. So this development order shows a proposed building that's going in right here, about 27 feet from the right-of-way with the wall, the proposed storage building. You can actually see the framing for the storage building taking place early in this year. This is an early 2023 photo. I believe it's in January. You see the pocket here for the building that will be eventually here if it's built to that DO standard or that DO approval. The applicant did demonstrate that they do have accessibility to potable water and sewer water lines, and that available capacity is in place to demonstrate compliance with the Land Development Code and by extension the LEED plans standards for water and sewer in the event they end up tripping that capacity, that threshold, those thresholds that are contained in the Land Development Code specifically. So in summary, staff does feel that, and I won't regurgitate the review criteria, but you do find those findings in the staff report that support that this request is consistent with the Land Development Code review criteria for rezoning, and contextually is certainly appropriate given the surrounding land use patterns. And with that, I'll open it up for questions if you have any.
The only one I wanted to clarify, there was reference to 5.1.5 in the distance, and it was sizable, but I'm not as familiar with this area. Where is that generally? I think it's at East Phlox Street, maybe?
Yes, here we go. Yeah, I think you're correct. This is the nearest residential land uses right here, that this is their rear lot line, and it's over 1,000 feet away. In fact, the supplemental regulations for increased setback from residential areas in the Land Development Code for certain manufacturing uses and other nuisance uses, they only go as far as 660 feet. That's the threshold that's set in the Land Development Code. So just by the nature of where the nearest residential land uses are, they'll have at least 1,000 feet of separation, and separated by what will be future industrial development and some minor commercial.
And none of the road connectivity would even touch the residential, it looks like.
That's correct, yeah. There's no continuity. You actually have to get back on Alico to make your turn there.
Thank you. That was the extent of my questions. Did applicant have any questions?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you also for an extensive staff report, an excellent presentation from the applicant. It's very straightforward, so I appreciate that. I'm not going to belabor anything either today, so we will conclude the hearing for today, and this will be final after today's hearing, so I'll issue the the decision, and you'll receive a copy of that. So thank you for coming today, and please stay well.
Thank you.
Thank you.